Naredna prezentacija dolazi iz organizacije koja upravlja globalnim DNS sistemom. ICANN je početkom januara 2025. penzionisao Whois protokol, njegov naslednik je RDAP i gospodin Ulrih Viser će nas upoznati sa mogućnostima koje on donosi registrima internet domena, operatorima i krajnjim korisnicima. So, Mr. Viser, the floor is yours for the next 20 minutes. Pozdravite ga aplauzom.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, so, well, it feels a little bit intimidating here, coming up after satellites, and now I'm talking about Whois. Okay. Well, let's start with who knows what ICANN does? Show of hands, I know. Well, okay, a few hands, good. Well, for the rest of you, I will give you a little introduction, and you will see why, because it has something to do with today's talk. Well, we are the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. And yeah, so what does that mean? Well, we have three main areas, and the assigned names is domain names. We run the root zone for all DNS, so top-level domains are distributed by us. And then we have the numbers, IP addresses. All IP addresses in the world are distributed by us. And if you think, well, I get my IP addresses from RIPE, you're totally right, but RIPE gets its IP addresses from ICANN, from IANA. It's a function of ICANN. So, and then we have the protocol parameters. It doesn't matter which protocol you use, BGP, DNS, whatever. There's always these little numbers in it that mean something, you know? And what these numbers mean, somebody has to write up. And that's what IANA does. That's the protocol parameters. And that is some of the main functions that we do, the assigned names and numbers. And well, if you want to get information about names and numbers, you usually use the Whois protocol, right? Okay, we jump over the, let's see, yes. So you use the Whois protocol, right? And it has been around for a very long time. We all use it very, by default. If you want to know something about an IP address or a domain name, you write Whois and do something. Okay, so, well, in the beginning, this was just a technical function. You know, when the people of the internet started the internet, they just wanted to know, oh, if something's wrong with this domain name, well, then I can make a Whois query, and then I know who to contact. Over time, this has developed a little bit, and there's now a lot of more people who want to know something about you and who owns that domain name. And it's not only for technical reasons. Okay, so we have all these stakeholders here. It's law enforcement and businesses and lawyers and, all of that. And so the protocol has become more and more added with data, you could say. And well, then what is the problem with Whois? So Whois it's hardly a protocol at all. So what it basically is, you make a TCP connection, you send an IP address or a domain name, and then you get some blob of something, and then you display that to the user, and you hope for the best. You have no way of indicating character sets or doing internationalization, anything. It's just like a blob of something, and you need to display that. There's, no security, no authentication, nothing. It's very, very, very basic. It's like hardly a protocol. Okay, and then over time, people, of course, not the first to see the problem. People have made different attempts to make other protocols, but it never really took off. And now we have something that actually took off, and that is the RDAP protocol. Okay, so, and it's standardized, obviously, by the IETF, like all the other internet standards. And since, since 2019, actually all the generic top-level domains have to implement RDAP, and they did. And so all the GTLDs have already an RDAP server that you can send RDAP queries to and get information over domain names. And actually all the RIRs, RIPE, ARIN, APNIC, and so on, they all have implemented RDAP for the IP addresses. So you can use RDAP for IP addresses too. And so why I'm here today, that is the last point here, January 2025. Actually, it became, Whois became optional for GTLDs. So, and we come to that, but a lot of them have already switched off their WHOIS server. Okay, so what's the main benefits of RDAP is we have a standardized protocol. It's a REST-based protocol, so you get JSON data back. It offers HTTPS. It's extensible, so if you have special requirements in your registry, you can add data. There's a bootstrapping mechanism, which is really, really important. If you think of WHOIS and your WHOIS client, you just write in something, but then the WHOIS client has to know which WHOIS server to contact. And actually, I know the maintainer of the WHOIS command line client for Debian, and it's a major work for them to keep up with what all the registries in the world are doing with their WHOIS servers. And they are hard-coded in the program. So there is no way of detecting them. So, but that's different for RDAP. For RDAP, there is a way of detecting it and to get the definitive list of which servers to contact for what top-level domain or for what IP address. So let's see. So you can look up autonomous system numbers. You can look up IP addresses. Oh no, wait. And yes. And the raw output is JSON. Okay, so RDAP in action, let's see. So easiest way to get RDAP data is through lookup ICANN.org. You just go to the website, you write in the domain name, and you get the data. You don't get the data from ICANN. There is an RDAP client in the background that will make the request to the correct RDAP server, and then we will display it for you. So this is just a proxy for you, so you don't have to install anything on the command line. You don't have to do that all yourself. You can just go to this website and make the request. Yeah, and it will display it for you in a way that is a little bit more human readable than raw JSON output. Oh. Good. So on the command line, actually ICANN produces a Rust-based RDAP client that you can install on your machines. And when you do that and you don't give it any parameters, it will output this table format. It receives JSON, but then it will make it more human readable. Because the data is structured, we know what belongs together, right? So we can say, well, this is you see the summary, and then you see identifiers and different informations. So we actually know what is what and can make a more human readable version of all of that. Yeah, and that is how it looks like when you don't do that, and then you get just this blob of JSON that gives you a lot of text. And so, yeah, and then obviously you can script it. You can just say, well, do something with it, and then in this case, it's a query that gives us the registrar for ICANN.org. And as you see, we use CSC. And so why does it put it out twice? Well, because it will first ask the registry for .org for this name, and then it will .org will actually make a redirect to the registrar, and then it asks the RDAP server of the registrar. That's a special function of the generic top-level domains. So we get the information twice, but it's we get the information very reliably. So yeah, so RDAP deployment. So as I said, WHOIS is no longer required for GTLDs. And already in February, 74 immediately dropped WHOIS servers. And obviously, if you're an operator, you know why, because why would you run servers that you don't have to run? It's like a liability, not something that adds value to you. And but as you see, this has taken off. So in September, the numbers are very, very different. And yeah, so there is an RDAP monitor. It's independently from ICANN, and they say that a lot more GTLDs already have dropped their WHOIS. We can still see the WHOIS servers, but they are not anymore publicly advertised. Yeah, so if you are a GTLD, you actually have to report the amount of queries that you get to your WHOIS servers to ICANN. And as you can see, yeah, there was a big query top last year in 2024, but and in the beginning of this year, but now it is steadily going down because that is how the RDAP queries look, because they have to report those too. And we are not in the same amount like WHOIS queries yet, but you know, it's going up. And then we have the CCTLDs. And as you might know, the GTLDs, the generic top-level domain, so every top-level domain with 3 letters or more, they have contracts with ICANN. But the CCTLDs are independent. They have no contract with ICANN. They follow the local law, which I think is a good thing, you know. But so they can do whatever they want. And so for the GTLDs, ICANN can make a requirement to support RDAP. For the CCTLDs, we cannot. And so the CCTLDs decide themselves if they want to do it. And so far, a quarter of them has done it. And I have it on good insider knowledge that .rs is working on an RDAP server, at least, or in the realms of releasing. So there is these independent organization that make some statistics about this, and they measure the RDAP distribution, and obviously all these GTLDs have it, but they can tell you a lot more about all of this, and who has servers and who has not. Yeah, there's lots of clients. There's web clients, mobile clients. So RDAP is widely supported. And if you use WHOIS today, RDAP is basically a drop-in. If you just use it on the command line, just write RDAP instead of WHOIS, and it works for you. And there's server software, obviously. We have authoritative servers. There's some redirect servers, actually, that try to, you know, make it more accessible even for people that don't have RDAP deployed yet. Yeah, and then there is future development of RDAP. RDAP actually has a lot more functionality than just WHOIS. In RDAP, you can actually formulate specific queries so that you could say, well, give me all the domain names that some organization owns or something. But most registries won't allow you to do these because, you know, that's some kind of privacy stuff. You know, RDAP also supports authentication, and you could say that we allow this for, you know, people that authenticated in a certain way. Yes, then we have RDAP for RPKI is something that is in development right now, and if you, I hope you have all deployed RPKI. I mean, in Europe, most people have, and then there is a JS contact. Right now, RDAP uses vCard for addresses, and the IETF works on a new protocol. Right now, if you register domain names, your registrar will talk a protocol that's called EPP with the registry, but there is a new protocol that's called RPP, the RESTful Provisioning Protocol, and that protocol probably will use JS Contact, and then RDAP will also switch to JS Contact to make it, you know, more unified in the approach. And that should make contacts a little bit easier to work with. And I think with that, I hope that you have questions.
Da li imamo neka pitanja za gospodina Visera? Samo dignite ruku. Evo, slobodno ime do pitanja. Molim vas ovdje jedan mikrofon. Možeš slobodno ponovo samo ruku da te... Evo, ono do tebe. To je to.
Thanks for the presentation. I know that this whole work on RDAP was, I wouldn't say derailed, but, you know, delayed by you know, the talks about privacy, the use of this by law enforcement, and also abuse. Yeah. So what was the outcome of all these debates? And does the protocol address this in any way?
Oh, well, well, let's say the privacy debates, I mean, the lawmakers have just, you know, pushed us to to where we are today. I mean, obviously the EU decided to become the regulation world champions or something. So GDPR, you know, just made facts that we have to follow. So I mean, that's where we are today. So I mean, if you make a whois query today, you won't get data of private people, and you won't get it in RDAP either. You know, it's just there's no way to do that. You know, I mean, nobody can just intentionally break the law, and it doesn't matter which protocol you use. So that's where we are. On other places, I think a lot of there's not so much resistance to RDAP and, you know, any about abuse or anything. It is just that, you know, whois has been around for a very long time. People know how to use it. It is incorporated in a lot of software, you know, in a lot of deployment stuff and script. And so it's just used. Well, at some point we have to switch over, and that's why I'm here today, because telling you that, well, the GTLDs are switching over in droves, and if you want your processes that use whois to work in the future, you need to switch to RDAP. And probably for some time you will have to use both, because some TLDs will only use whois, especially CC TLDs, and then for others only RDAP will work.
So we essentially switched both the use and the abuse.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions? And that's it. Može još jedan aplauz za gospodina Visera.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.